Influenza in the Western Pacific, what 5 years of surveillance teach us. Hello and welcome to Unpedagogo. Today I want to take you on a journey into a topic that may sound familiar, but still shapes our lives in ways we often overlook: influenza. Every year this virus comes back, sometimes quietly, sometimes with devastating force. It brings seasonal epidemics, and every so often it sparks a global pandemic. To understand it better, we'll dive into a fascinating scientific study that analyzed influenza in the Western Pacific region of the World Health Organization between 2006 and 2010. Now, what exactly is influenza? At first glance it's just fever, cough, maybe a sore throat, but the danger lies deeper. It can trigger severe respiratory infections, worsen chronic conditions, and even lead to death in vulnerable groups. Here's the interesting part. In temperate countries like Japan or South Korea, influenza hits hard in the winter, but in tropical nations such as the Philippines or Vietnam it's present year-round, no pause, no clear season. This study confirmed that climate, geography, and even human movement patterns play a big role in how the virus spreads. So how do we keep track of a virus that's always changing? That's where the Global Influenza Surveillance and Response System, or GISRS, comes in. This network, created by the World Health Organization back in 1952, monitors influenza, spots new variants with pandemic potential, and recommends which strains should be included in vaccines each year. In the Western Pacific alone, a region that covers almost a quarter of the world's population, 14 countries contributed data to this massive surveillance effort. And here's what they found. From 2006 to 2010, the number of samples tested skyrocketed. In 2006, there were about 65,000. By 2009, in the middle of the H1N1 pandemic, that number exploded to more than 366,000. Think about that for a second, a fourfold increase. This shows how a global health crisis can push surveillance systems to expand and improve almost overnight. The patterns were also clear. Peaks in influenza-like illness matched peaks in lab-confirmed influenza cases. In other words, what doctors were seeing in clinics was being confirmed in laboratories. And that combination, clinical data plus virological data, gave us a much clearer picture of influenza activity. But viruses don't stay the same. They shift, evolve, and sometimes catch us off guard. Between 2006 and 2008, seasonal influenza AH1, AH3, and influenza B were the main players. Then came 2009. That year, the new pandemic strain, H1N1 PDM09, took over, accounting for nearly 2/3 of all reported cases. What's fascinating is that new strains often showed up first in Southeast Asian countries like Cambodia, Vietnam, and Singapore, before appearing later in Australia, New Zealand, and even further north. This supports theories from scientists like Trevor Bedford and Andrew Rambo, who explain how influenza migrates globally thanks to human travel and interconnected societies. Now here's something many people don't realize. More than 76% of the influenza strains recommended for vaccines between 1988 and 2010 came from this region. That means what happens in the Western Pacific doesn't stay in the Western Pacific. It directly shapes global vaccine production and protects millions worldwide. Of course, the study wasn't perfect. Each country used slightly different definitions of what counts as influenza-like illness. Some countries had stronger labs than others. That made comparisons tricky. But even with those challenges, one key lesson stood out. When countries share data quickly, it works like an early warning system. It gives others the chance to prepare before a new strain arrives at their borders. So what's the takeaway? We need stronger cooperation across regions. We need common definitions, we need better labs, and we need to keep the information flowing. Only then can governments design effective policies to control influenza and prepare for whatever comes next. This video is based on the article Epidemiological and Virological Characteristics of Influenza in the Western Pacific region of the World Health Organization, 2006 to 2010. It was written by members of the Western Pacific region Global Influenza Surveillance and Response System and published in PLoS ONE in 2012. Before we wrap up, I'll leave you with this question. After living through COVID-19, do you believe our societies are better prepared to face influenza and other respiratory viruses? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe to Unpedagogo. Here, I bring you videos based on scientific research with the help of artificial intelligence, so we can all access knowledge more easily. I am Mao Chunti, and I am a pedagogue.